Okay.
I pulled out the Deerville book, since I haven't seen one of those in a while, and checked the dates on them. The first one came out 2010, the second one 2012, the third one 2015, and definitely not my kind of theology, but very, very accomplished work. So I'm hoping that Barry's been able to keep going with Hearville.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, it gives you an excuse to put some Hearville book covers up on the site when you're looking for visuals to go with these Hold for Dave Sim.
Yeah. Let's see.
So his question about anyone know if Dave and company plan to do more Cerebus archive portfolios? There weren't any in 2018. One of the problems that I'm having pretty much across the board right now is just the price of paper. So it's very difficult to figure out what's the best way to be trying to make money in 2019 with the paper prices doing what they're doing. In terms of the Cerebus archive portfolios, I had settled into 10 pages of artwork and 3 pages of commentaries, 3 sheets of commentaries, 6 pages of commentaries in each of the portfolios, and I don't know if that's viable, and I haven't been able to figure out what is it that I am going to have to cut if I have to cut something. Do I cut the 10 pages back to 8 pages? And do I cut the commentaries back from 3 sheets, 6 pages, to 4 sheets, or 2 sheets, 4 pages, or 1 sheet, 2 pages? And it's a very time-consuming process to write the commentaries. It tends to take up pretty much an entire 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, work week, when I do it. I do have the pages for Cerebus Archive number 8 pulled out, the 10 earliest pages from the Cerebus Archive. And it's also a situation where it's stuff that interests me, but it's not stuff that I think would interest the general Cerebus audience, if there even is such a thing anymore. The first page that I got, issue 164, page 3, is, I think, the earliest. No, it's not. That's the other thing I was doing, was starting to shuffle them around, going, maybe if I deal with these not in the order that they occur. I've got 2 Elrod the Oprah Winfrey parody. And I don't know if 25 years later on we're any more ready for an Oprah Winfrey parody than we were back in 1992.
I always thought they were funny.
Well, okay, that's you and me so far.
I remember at Space one year, the year that when Siler was still dating the crazy Canadian, because she was there, we had enough women that we could do that sequence and not have Margaret do all the voices. And we did it. Everybody in the room was laughing. I don't know if anybody watched the video. I think it's out on YouTube.
Okay. It just, very weird situation. Just when you asked me about it, and it's like I went, okay, the pages are sitting right here. I've got them sitting in the doorway of the office. So they're right there every time I come in and go out. And, you had relayed Barry's question about whether there's going to be another Cerebus archive. And it just seemed really coincidental that at the same time that I went, okay, let's look at the pages again. And I got to the Oprah Winfrey pages, and there was like 4 of them. And I went, I don't think anybody's going to buy 4 pages of Oprah Winfrey parody. And then I went, okay, maybe people don't take Oprah Winfrey as seriously as they used to. And then that very day, like I'm reading the Leaving Neverland reviews in the National Post, and they've got Oprah Winfrey as our, what was it the New York Times called it? Processor-in-Chief, who, did this 1-hour old-style Oprah Winfrey kind of gig with these survivors of Michael Jackson. And I'm sitting there going, Oprah Winfrey was like one of the world's biggest Michael Jackson boosters. What is she doing being our processor-in-chief, the person who is going to help us all get a handle on this triggering Michael Jackson moment? It's like, I think, here I start, this is where I'm starting to get into dangerous territory, just talking about Oprah Winfrey, where it's like, I think most guys back in the 1990s had a pretty good idea of who Michael Jackson was. I don't think the women did. And I think probably black people had a blind spot for Michael Jackson. But, when the stories first started surfacing as him, molesting prepubescent boys, it's like, well, whatever he's doing to make his voice go like that, his voice doesn't naturally go like that. That seems to dovetail with this and the whole Peter Pan thing. It's like, wasn't there a consensus that Michael Jackson was crazy?
Yeah. I remember a couple of years back talking to somebody, and when he was still alive, I think it was when he was going to trial for, they were investigating him, and somebody was like, oh yeah, I was a big Michael Jackson fan. I'm like, really? Because he hasn't had a hit since like 1990. I mean, I remember, he had one album come out after Thriller that was huge, and then there was one more, and then it was like he fell off the radar screen, and all you ever heard about was the Scandal. And I'm like, where's the fan base for this? You know, it's not like he's
Yeah,
producing album after album. I mean, you know, we're not hearing from Michael other than Michael's weird and crazy.
yeah, yeah. It seemed to be a drug thing as well. Like whatever painkillers he got into, when he set his hair on fire doing the Pepsi commercial. It's like he seemed to go right to the Elvis Presley drug plan thing of I'm Michael Jackson and I can afford to buy and sell doctors 8 times over. So why don't you just give me the prescriptions that I want? And it's like self-medicating on this absolutely mind-boggling level.
Well, I remember after he died, Lisa Marie came out with, when they were married, that was his biggest fear, was that he was going to end up like Elvis. And I'm like, really? Because it sounds like you went, hey, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, it looked more like a lifestyle choice than a cautionary tale from his point of view. But the other thing, looking at I'm just paging through the Oprah Winfrey parody, and I did Cat Ironwood as Dr. Ironcat. Do you remember Cat Ironwood, or do you know the reference to Cat Ironwood?
I have the original issues of Miracle Man, so yeah, I get some of the reference. I mean, I know who she is.
Right. Yeah, because she was an odd sort of character where she got romantically involved with Dean Mulaney at Eclipse, and then basically became the Eclipse publisher. The only time I heard from Dean Mulaney in the last 25 years, he referred to her as she who must not be named. And that was another thing where I'm going, okay, first of all, am I taking my life in my hands, describing what I see when I look at Oprah Winfrey? And then am I taking my life in my hands by explaining exactly how strange I thought Cat Ironwood was, who, when Eclipse went out of business, she just sort of seemed to vanish. I knew mostly of her because I subscribed to the Comics Buyer's Guide, and she had a column in there called Fit to Print. She was the one that came up with Bunny and Tree, as Will Eisner had told her, anybody can do a comic strip. So she took him at his word and did a comic strip called Bunny and Tree. So that's where the Elrod Bunnies and the Cerebus Trees came from in high society. And I gotta say, like, between trying to explain what I see when I look at Oprah Winfrey and what I see when I look at Cat Ironwood, and trying to do it in less space than I've had for the commentaries up until now, I really can't see myself making any friends this way. Particularly like the really ardent feminists like Barry Deutsch. It's I'm perfectly happy to be honest. I mean, I try to be as honest as possible about everything that I do, and if I'm doing commentaries, well, I'll be honest about whatever it is that I'm supposed to be talking about. But feminists are not real big on any kind of honesty besides feminist honesty, in my experience. It's, they expect you to toe the line, and if you don't, then you have to be fully prepared for being destroyed for not being a feminist.
Yeah. There's a couple women I work with that, you know, years ago when I first started working in a factory, and okay, I'm working with a woman. There was like two or three women I worked with, but not at the same time. And then it was okay. There's two women working together, and they're the best of friends. And then a third woman starts, and it's if you work with three women, it's two of them are the best of friends, and one of them is always going to be that bitch. And I've told people this, and they just look at me like I'm insane, and I'm like, watch, and invariably, okay, I'm working with these two girls, and they're the best of friends. Yes, they're a little catty to each other, but they laugh and they giggle, and then a new girl starts, and immediately one of them becomes that bitch that the other two just can't stand. And I've had guys I've explained this to go, no, you're not. You're completely wrong, Matt. You're wrong, Matt. And a week later they come back with, wow, you're right. She is that bitch. And they just, I shake my head because it's like I've seen it happen over and over again.
And this was a guy that told you this?
I told this to a guy and he didn't believe me. And then a week later he came back and went, yeah, no, you're right. That's, if you don't tote the company line when it comes to women and how they want to, they have their hierarchy, and if you buck the trends, all of a sudden you're out. And
yeah, that's sort of related to what I call the queen bee syndrome, where somebody is going to be the arbiter of who is who and what's what, and as soon as she makes herself apparent as the queen bee, you have two choices. Get on her good side by letting her do whatever she wants to whoever she wants, whenever she wants, or probably lose your job or whatever context it is that you're in because nobody crosses the queen bee.
Yeah, the way I always look at it is tote the company line or hide.
Right. So that's really what I've been going through on the Cerebus Archive portfolio number 8, and then page 163, or issue 163, page 6 is in there, and that's the Asian prostitute with Punisher Roach. And it's like that became a whole can of worms because I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, I know what I would, like where that came from in my personal life at the time. And again, I'm perfectly amenable to explain where any of the jokes or situations come from. What was interesting was looking at it and going, this is pre-Chester Brown prostitution, which then led to, do I want to talk about that as well? Like when I was hanging around with Chester Brown and listening to him, his advocacy of prostitution, which, we just kept going around the same circle all the time. Like, believe me, Chester, I'm not an impoverished individual. If I thought there was nothing wrong with paying young girls for sex, I'd be right there with you. It's like, man, oh man, yes, as mental pictured experiences go, physical pleasure, aesthetic feedback, whatever you want to call it. But the morality of it is just, no, you can't do that. Like there's no way to make that a moral choice, and it just seems completely self-evident to me. Although I live in a country where, as I was saying to somebody the other day, prostitution is, at least for a time, has been seen as civic virtue. This is a very good thing for a young girl to get into because it gives her independence and autonomy, and she's able to make lots of money. And I don't know if that's still the point of view. That stuff tends to change behind the scenes depending on what the queen bees are deciding between each other, what's okay and what's not okay. And that's one of those, do I really want to get into this? And do I really want to get into this just after explaining what I see when I look at Oprah Winfrey and Cat Ironwood?
Yeah, that's your minefield, not mine.
Well, exactly. It's like I was the one who decided to do a whole book called Women, and being as honest as I possibly could in it, in the women characters that I was doing. Here is my experience of women. This is what women are like. In my experience, I've had good experiences and I've had bad experiences, but mostly I look at it as I don't think this is exportable into the political world and the business world without really doing serious damage to both. But I'm one of the few people who's actually been willing to say that out loud. I don't know. It seems very weird. People seem to be backing towards my position, but everybody seems more willing to say, "Oh yeah, this whole political correctness thing is just getting out of control. We need a lot fewer people forcing people to be politically correct." But they won't say the same thing about feminism. It's like you need the firewall euphemism of political correctness. We can't say, no, this is what women have done to society over the last, well, next year will be the 50th anniversary.
Right. Again, it's your minefield.
Well, there you go. So
I
guess the short answer for Barry is this is what keeps happening when it comes time to do Cerebus Archive number 8 is, well, okay, if I sit down and talk about this, as I always do, I will actually talk about this. And I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this in our society. It's, how many more Cerebus Archive customers I will lose by actually talking about Oprah Winfrey and actually talking about Cat Ironwood and actually talking about the whole Asian prostitute situation.
I mean, you could write everything up and we could put it online and put in the notes of, here's the website if you want way more information than the average Cerebus fan. But then again, then you're getting to, well, here's the commentary, and the commentary is go over there and look, and we're going to wait here, and you can come back if you want.
Yeah, I'm not sure that over-elaboration is going to help the situation either. It's like, no, this was already irritating me. I don't want to go online and get more irritated.
Right.
Reading. doing with the strange death of Alex Raymond is to have online annotations so that we don't have, I'm not limited to, well, it has to fit in the back of